So welcome everybody to our episode number 7 of the Deco Mix, and this time it's a bit different format. We're doing
a Q&A with IANTD.
Yeah.
So we're going to basically end our season 1 of our podcasts with a bit of a change in format, like Andy said. We're having put a bit of a message out there for our followers and come back with some questions, because we found that people wanted to know a little bit more about us and how we work and so on.
And what we think.
Not many people want to know what we think. But there's a few people that want to know what we think.
A few,
yeah. So
even if you don't want to know, we'll let you know what we think now. So it's okay.
You're going to know what we think by the end of the day. So let's just let's kick it off with some of our questions. We've got one of our friends, actually, Ben Gonzalez. He came in with a question for us. He says, "Hi Andrew, hope you're well." I'm doing very well, Ben, thank you. I've got a question for your podcast. With the CCR knowledge that you have today, imagine that you could be certified on any CCR unit. What would your top 3 CCR units be that you would offer training on? That's an interesting one, because that's 3 now.
I'll leave this to you, this question, actually.
For me?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Top 3. Well, I guess I love diving the JJ CCR. I think that one is just built to last. It is so robust. You dive it as well.
I do, yes.
We dive it in the GUE setup with the valves up, 7-litre tanks or on the sides. A lot of people don't like it that way, think it's a bit heavy, but I find that it just sets my trim just perfect, just really easy. It just gets into trim very, very quickly and easily, and I feel very confident when I'm diving it, knowing that I've got that bailout on my back already.
But it's a heavy unit.
It is heavy. There are pros and cons of diving these things, and so JJ right up there. I mean, and I think it is built to last. I think it's one of those things that I like. I do like the inspiration. Honestly, in my opinion, I've taken away the box. That was something that I just didn't really get on with. I've changed the configuration a bit. I have gone valve up in that for that unit. So I couldn't train it in that configuration. But I also found that having dived the JJ with valves up, that's sort of given me a nice way of diving. Third one, I'm not actually trained on it, but I would like to try the Liberty. Okay, I would like to try that, mainly because I've heard some really good things about it. But there's also, I guess, right up there with it, the Fathom. That's getting some really good reviews.
Never tried it, but
but
our friend in Mexico,
Kelvin is an instructor with that, and basically raves about it. And what I like about that unit, the Fathom, is that it basically, you can have the different configurations for it, whether you're cave, wreck, open water. That's very adaptable, shall we say. So yeah, I guess that's 4 units, but I mean, 2 of those I haven't really tried. That are currently out there, I think. I don't really think, there's a part of me that says, having 3 units is probably too many.
You're going to stay current.
You've got to stay current in it. You've got to dive these things.
Which is, I know one question our friend Guy Shockey asked us.
Yeah.
If you have so many units, are you still current in all the units?
Are you still current? And the probable answer is no, honestly. Which is why over the years I've kind of narrowed down the units that I do train or do dive, and get it right down there to what it is that I'm needing for the time.
And for the environment, right? I mean, it depends on what you're diving and where you're diving.
Very much for the environment, yeah, of course.
I think if you ask people in caves in Mexico, they have a different opinion based on the environment and what their needs are. Of course, probably the JJ is probably more an open water unit rather than a cave unit, if you would compare it.
Yeah, I mean, rebreathers and top 3 units, or what's your preference? How do you dive it? I mean, it's like that with everything, isn't it? It's a matter of opinion, and you're never going to get 100 people that agree with each other exactly. It's just this is my opinion. It's my thoughts on it.
But also, most people have to make a choice. A lot of people don't have the luxury to just buy 5 units and try them all out and dive them.
Yeah,
because they're definitely not the cheapest.
No, they're not.
Dive equipment.
No. I've had my fair share of units over the years, and I've trimmed down on them. Let's say, yeah,
which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing. It is a good thing. All right,
good. Next
one we got Pete Lucas. Now Pete is a diver that we're very very friendly with at Mexico, Hong Kong. He's now in Australia, and he's come up with a question on the various styles of diving in the industry at the moment. Side mount, doubles, rebreathers. Which format do you feel the majority of divers will persist with in 5 years' time?
Well, persist. In my opinion, if you take the industry, how people learn how to dive with back mount, right? I mean, the majority, I would say, single tank, open circlet, back mount style, jacket style, most likely. That's how people learn to dive. So the evolution of that, in my opinion, is probably more back mount doubles rather than side mount. But then I would say second one is side mount because it's kind of a trend in industry. What I think about rebreathers is that it's like the tip of the iceberg, because it's expensive. It's not so accessible, although a lot of people would like to try it, but the majority of people will never dive rebreathers. It's just not affordable. It's just not feasible really to do it. And to have access to all the things and to try them is difficult. So I would think probably I'm also a bit driven towards doubles because that's what I prefer to dive. So back mount diving, doubles is probably a very solid platform and setup. But having said this, depends on also the environment you're diving. So if the environment needs a different setup, like let's say a cave where you do need to have side mount setup, then probably something side mount you should consider. But if I take the majority of divers globally, my opinion, this is just my personal opinion, is probably back mount doubles more than any other style of diving, in my opinion.
I've seen numerous different trends, if you like, in the industry over the past sort of 20 odd years of teaching, and doubles, twin tanks, certainly that was right up there. Then side mount came in, even recreational rebreather diving came in, and learning on rebreathers, basically learning to dive on a rebreather, that came in, and it comes in. I guess it swings in roundabouts, and we've kind of like stabilized a bit now, where people are starting to realize that the style of diving, when you talk about side mount, twin tanks, rebreathers, very much depends on the type of diving that you're doing, and it's very much becomes down to the right tool for the conditions. And some people have various different reasons for wanting to dive side mount, for example, whether it's you've got back problems, or whether you're finding yourself in restrictions and caves and so on and so forth, or whether you're finding yourself going deep open water ocean diving. You may want to aim for rebreathers and work your way up in that sort of level. Of course, the fact of the cost of diving, as that goes up with the cost of gas, particularly helium, then people are going to go more rebreathers and angle that way. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of variations in this, and I don't really see that there's one sort of area that people are going to persist with in 5 years, even 10 years. I think it's going to be a very broad spectrum. More people are finding diving accessible, and these things, side mount, twin tanks, rebreathers, they are becoming more and more readily accessible for divers.
The question I have is actually, will there be another trend? What else is there in diving?
Armbands. We're going to dive with armbands.
Mm-hmm.
Going to go back, actually. No, we're going to go back. What we're going to do is going to go back to the old horseshoe BCD type thing. I dived with that in my commercial course back in the UK when I was a wee young what's it called? Whippersnapper.
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 Never heard of.
And when I was a youngster at uni, and I remember them then handing me this thing, this horseshoe neck thing, and I was used to diving.
It's
in
like
jacket.
a life jacket.
It looks like a life jacket. Feels like a life jacket when
Isn't
you're
it also military combat divers do something like this?
it's a horrible thing to wear. You know, there's people that swear by it, but you know what I mean? It's like one of those things. I came from wearing jackets and, you know, that sort of side of it. And I was a kid as well. I was like 19 years old and thinking, this is not cool. This does not look cool. And that was one thing. I was like, I don't look cool doing it. Why am I doing it?
So you think, so Andrew Couch thinks this is going to be the new trend. Let us know your opinions in the comments. And
Watch this space. We will all
Yeah.
be diving the horseshoe neck thing, life jacket thing. LBJ.
in 5 years from now.
In 5
this is
years
what
from
the
now.
prediction is.
Yeah.
So rewatch in 5 years on YouTube and let's see if we're there or
If
not.
I'm right, I want everybody to donate money to me.
And we'll put the account number in the comments as
We'll
well.
put the account number in the comments.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Feel free to donate. You know. All right. So our next question. Now, our next question is from is from one of our very special friends.
Very active viewer and
I
friend
mean,
of us.
his name is Delvin Cavidson. Some of you may know him as Kelvin, but his real name is Delvin. He won't admit it, but you know, we'll go out there.
I think he lives in Tulum, yeah,
Tulum,
which is I think in Mexico. Yeah.
Yes, I mean from from last week.
And he says he does some cave diving.
Yes.
So we'll take his word for that.
Yeah.
And but
Dubious.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
good questions, Delvin.
Yes, good questions, Delvin. The first one we got, actually, I really like this question. Thank you very much, Delvin, for this. Can Andy grow hair? Now, I'm not being funny. I think it's beautiful.
So thank you.
Put your comments down there. Do we think Andy's hair or head is beautiful?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. So I think that's a known answer. But the question is not if my head is beautiful. The question is, can Andy grow hair? And the simple answer is Andy can grow hair.
He can.
I can. Just not everywhere. It's a very how to say.
I've got a question. If you grow it out, does it go like really wild, like professor style? Is that what you get? Do you get like mad scientist look?
I don't know.
If I got a white jacket sort of thing,
So like that.
you grew it out
from the what's the name with the Michael J. Fox?
the Back to the Future.
Back to the Future guy.
Yeah, what's his name? Doc Brown.
Doc Brown.
Is it Doc Brown?
Doc Brown. I think it's Doc Brown. Yeah.
It could be Doc Brown.
Maybe I would look Doc Brown. I've never tried it, but thanks for asking the question. And that question is, will you try it, Andy? Definitely not. No, because I don't think it would be a good look for me. But leave us your comments if you think it's going to be a good look. It might take me a few years, but yeah, I can grow hair, but not necessarily the way I want the hair to be grown on my head.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Let's go to the next question.
Let's go to the next
but
question.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated this
So
question.
the next question from Delvin is GUE fundamentals worth it for me? I'm already an experienced tech diver. Good question. That's a really good question, actually, and really something that we do come up against. Not come up against. I mean, we are asked a lot of times because obviously, you know, it's one of those things. If you want to get into the GUE system and you're already a trained diver, you've got to take that fundamentals. You've got to get that sort of foundational level of training, get into the system and what GUE actually really means, and that you learn from the fundamentals. Now,
well, what about your experience? I mean, I was a tech diver already. I think I was fully Trimix certified, if I'm not mistaken, when I took my fundamentals course. And did I gain? Yes, I still learned a lot. I fine-tuned it, and I actually think once you're an experienced diver and you know how to dive, at least you have a foundation. Somehow you're stable in the water. You can actually really gain even more probably than if you're a new diver, because you already have a platform and you can really fine-tune yourself. I mean, that's something I did, and I I really enjoyed it. So I would say yes, but I mean, what about you? You did fundamentals as well?
Of course, yeah, of course. I was fundamentals way back, 2004, but I was already a tech diver as well. Trimix, like yourself, rebreathers is also, and it's sort of one of those things. It was like kind of, you do run it through your head. I'm this level, and am I taking a step back? I don't think any course, shall we say, in this at this level is a step back, particularly when it's run by an instructor that is highly knowledgeable, right? I mean, let's face it, and the skill set, for me, when I went through the process, just what I gained in skills, I'd like to think I was pretty good. But just enhance that, right? The stability, the balance, and just things that I learned from it. Little sort of tweaks and tips and hints on how to sort of maybe set up my gear, how to put my body position in the water, so it's a lot more stable. And then just for me, the sort of the team aspect of things.
That's a big thing that I have not been really taught in the same way in my other courses.
Yeah.
First, when I did GE, that's when team diving really became meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly.
Yeah. And then, of course, at the end of it, it gave you really a gateway into what really ticks the boxes for me is the project-based diving, and the ability to sort of really take part. And I'm not saying that if you don't go GUE, you won't be taking part in meaningful projects and things like that, but just the access to the community that doing all this allowed was well worth it for me. I mean, we've met people all over the world now, and the fact is we can literally go and join a project, join a group of divers and go diving with them, do some pretty serious dives, and yet know that each other's going to react in a particular sort of way. That's really something quite unique in the GUE system for me, and that's coming from having taught technical diving for the past 20 years. You really do get a course out of it, and you definitely become a better diver, right? In some way, and other people are different from others.
Yeah. As long as you're open to learn and to maybe relook at your current style of diving and maybe get rid of some habits you're having developed over the years.
Yeah.
And listen. Listen.
Yeah, definitely a growth mindset. Having that going into the course does obviously benefit you, and you'll gain, you'll learn.
And not thinking you're too good for the course because you already have so many certifications. I think that's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Thanks, Delvin. We'll might come back to you in the second episode.
Actually, should we also maybe have?
Oh,
we have a nice question from you as well.
Do it.
So it proves he is in Mexico, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he said, if we would travel to Mexico, is it safe to eat tacos?
Tacos.
I think 3 times every day. I mean, a simple answer.
Okay.
It's like definitely safe.
Definitely safe.
Yeah. Probably not so safe to eat street tacos before you dive.
Yes.
Because
let's face it,
things can happen.
Yeah.
So I would not recommend that, but it's maybe outside it's safe to eat, but I'd probably save it after the dive.
Yes. Your stomach will love you. Your waistline will hate you. But try it. I mean, go there, give it a go. 3 tacos a day.
No, it's not 3 tacos. 3 times every day.
3 times every day.
So it's 3 times every day. So it's 3 times how many tacos you can eat.
We can eat a lot.
And there's very good tacos in Tulum. I mean, if you go to Tulum, there's very good few taco places. So you should definitely.
Yeah.
You cannot not do it if you're in Mexico. I think you have to.
Rumor is that Delvin misses us. We miss you too, Delvin. We miss you too.
That goes out for you.
This is for you.
We're coming for you.
We're coming. We'll be back. One day.
Yeah. All right.
Next one. Now, Barry Coleman from South Africa. Now Barry is a friend of ours. He's been on the podcast with us, and
the first one,
the very first one,
episode one,
season 1, episode 1, way back when we were podcast.
Yeah, you want to say?
You want to say it?
Okay,
I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. But when we were new to podcast, let's just say, and Barry was talking about his experiences in caves in Madagascar, if you remember rightly, or if you don't, go and find it on our channel. Now Barry says, cylinder valves, is it all the way open, or all open with a quarter turn closed? All right.
I think he's asking, should it be?
Should it be?
Yeah.
Well, he's asking our opinion, maybe. Maybe he's asking our opinion.
Okay.
Should it be? Oh, yeah, should it be? Now, well, my opinion is all the way open. Right? I think. So is mine. I think gone are the days of certainly when I was taught, open it and then quarter of a turn back. That was maybe because you get on a dive boat and you put all your gear on, you're sort of there, and your dive master who's helping you into the water maybe just does that final check, and if it's all the way open, they just may get confused which way the valve opens, and they just might crack the valve and break the valve handle.
So divers might just really
push it open or something like that. But I think those days are sort of long gone. For me personally, it's all the way open, mainly because your valves should be well maintained for a start, so they should be easily to move. And when I'm underwater, and if there is a problem and I have to manipulate the valves, then I just want to take that sort of thought process out of the equation, if you like, and just have that instinctive reaction where it's going to no, that's not the right way. Okay, I'm going the right way, and that does happen, particularly in an emergency. So for me, it's an easy one. It's valves all the way open, but I mean, there are people out there who will come up with a reverse argument, so to speak, and that's not to say that's any less valid, but for me it is valves open. What about you?
I'm the same, actually.
You're the same? Yeah.
But I think you need to know which way is open, which one is closed, especially for twin tanks. You need to get used to it, because otherwise you get confused. And I know people, especially if you do a valve drill and you get sidetracked or confused in the end, you don't know actually did you open or close, and you try to check in the end and don't know. I mean, if you check it and it's locked, basically it could be either fully open or fully closed if you don't know which way is open.
Yeah.
And I had this before, that people just do a valve check in the end, say all good, all open, and then one was fully closed.
Yeah.
So that's something that you need to be aware of. But I do agree, fully open for me.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Good. Should we go to our next friend?
Go to the next one. Al Doherty. How to choose undergarments for dry suit diving. Now, we actually have this question quite a lot anyway. I mean, as you can see behind Andy there's quite a stock of dry suit undergarments of various different thicknesses. So it can be quite confusing. How do you choose which undergarment to have? So, well, I mean,
temperature, in my opinion.
Temperature is obviously the biggest one.
Flexibility,
right?
Or movability, or what is it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I like to have, I like to layer, and so that gives me a maximum amount of flexibility, in my opinion, for choosing which undergarment to wear. So if it's we get asked this question because we're over here in the tropics, right? In Hong Kong's warm water generally, Philippines or wherever we are, generally in warm water. Why are you wearing a dry suit? So hot. Well, yes, but I'm wearing a thin undergarment, so I'm basically just giving myself.
A dry suit keeps you dry, right? Not warm. Keep that in mind. It's nothing. Yeah.
Hopefully, it keeps you dry
for a time,
unless you leave the zipper open or something like that, which I mean
never happens to you, but
may have encountered before in my time. But yeah, so it's about layers for me. So there are different materials, different brands that you'll try out, and equally all of them have their pros and cons. Next one down for me, if I was going to choose an undergarments, would be the flexibility in movement, right? So we talk about flexibility of like options on temperature, but also your flexibility in your body, right? I mean, there's no point in having a material that's too sort of overly thick and restrictive in your movements, and so you want to kind of have that adaptability. In your
but I think it also goes back to the right dry suit measurements for the undergarment you're wearing, right? Keep in mind that you cannot have an undergarment that is kind of cut or made, a dry suit is made or cut for tropical diving, for thin undergarments, and then you go to in a cold water and put a 400 gram and a heating vest underneath it. You won't be able to move. Yeah. So you got to figure that out. Where are you mainly diving, and what undergarments would you wear? Because there's a limitation of the space, simple space.
Yeah.
Also, again, going back, if you eat 3 times tacos a day, 365 days a year, at some point you might not be able to fit in the dry suit you have.
Yes.
Which is also a consideration you should make. Or the other way around, if you lose a lot of weight, that's a problem with dry suits. But
yeah, they don't have the flexibility, shall we say, of a wetsuit.
So the solution is buy more than one dry suit.
Yes, yes.
And you know who to ask.
We might be able to help you there. But in all seriousness, do sort of seek some advice on the undergarments that you choose. Again, it's like everything that we're going to talk about here. People have their opinions, right? And you know, they don't necessarily always match ours or the next person's, and so on. But sort of look at layering, look at the flexibility of the movement, look at the material, make sure it's a good wicking material that'll wick the moisture away from your body, yeah.
I mean, there's also different kinds of dry suits. Keep that in mind as well,
Yeah.
right? So we prefer
we prefer a membrane dry
Yes.
suit as opposed to a neoprene dry suit or crushed neoprene. And obviously, if you have a crushed neoprene, you've got inherent thermal properties, insulation properties with the dry suit, whereas you don't with a membrane dry suit.
So I guess the question goes first: which dry suit style you would take, and then you go to the undergarments.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of factors to consider when it does, but that's why I say, you know, go and seek out some advice, right, on the undergarments that you want to sort of choose.
But one last thing is, if you choose an undergarment, choose one undergarment that is made for dry suits and for a technical undergarment. Don't just wear a t-shirt or something that is not made for it, because it won't have the same function and it won't work. And either it keeps you, either you're sweating or you're freezing. It's not the right thing for diving. So really don't go, if you invest in a dry suit, don't go cheap on undergarment, because that's the thing that keeps you warm, and that's what you want to have working properly. So please don't just wear a cheap t-shirt just because you don't want to invest another few $100 in an undergarment.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
Cool. Okay,
good. All right,
so we've got Forrest here. Forrest is another one down in Australia now, left these shores, and
bike buddy.
Yeah, bike buddies. We did a few rides together.
I heard you were much faster than Forrest.
I was much faster. I mean, it was, to be honest with you, I was getting a little bit tired of having to train him. And when someone's trying to keep up with you and you're going half pace and they still.
But he's a nice guy, so you said,
he's a nice
what?
Guy.
I keep riding with him, right?
I'll slow it down.
I'll
slow it down for him. I mean, Forrest, you need to step it up a little bit with your training regime. But anyway, so I guess it'd be interesting to know what a GUE instructor or diver thinks about an air integration. Is this an extra failure point? Is the extra failure point worth it? Ooh. For me, my very, very personal opinion, air integration is it's not worth it. Okay, I don't. For me, I don't have it. I don't use it. I've tried it before, and it is just one extra sort of thing that I just don't want to become reliant on, to be honest with you. I'd rather stick to good old SPG, and obviously that has its drawbacks as well in terms of accuracy and things. And I understand and appreciate that technology is improving and it's all moving forwards, and you can do great things with these now, like check your teammates' gas as well. It does your consumption and all this sort of stuff.
It's a nice tool.
It's a nice tool. It's getting better, and maybe in a couple of years or whatever I'll change my opinion on it. But for me at the moment, I'm still a bit old school and go over an SPG.
But if you would recommend somebody who has it, how should they mounting it, or how should they put it on the first stage?
Oh, definitely so that it's out of the way.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want these things. I've seen them. Even on sets of twin tanks, where it's sticking up from the valve, and basically just not looking very pretty. But also, it's as well as it not looking good, it's a massive failure point if it's sticking up.
Some people actually have a small hose and put in a hose as well.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
so.
In other words, for me, therefore you're adding another O-ring in there. That's another potential failure point. Everybody have an opinion on it, but that's my opinion. I don't think it's worth the extra failure point. But there are others that do like these sorts of things.
I have the same opinion actually.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you differ, then stick it down in the comments down below. From Erin, actually, Erin Leslie. Okay.
Which one are you?
We're going to do
thousands of questions.
Yeah,
here.
he's got quite a few. Let's just say, quite pertinent. When travel opportunities open up.
When? Or if?
Delvin, we hope they open up pretty soon so we can come and see you.
And eat some tacos.
Tacos. Maybe do a bit of diving as well. You never know, right? Those caves. Right? When travel opportunities open up, what should one pack in their carry-on bags versus checked baggage? I don't want to give away too many secrets about what we put in our carry-on as opposed to what we put in our checked baggage, to be fair, because then I might get stopped at the airport. Is it better to contact a dive shop in the area of travel and discuss rental options? Oh,
for certain things, yes.
For certain things, mate. I mean, we've travelled. We've carried a bit of gear in our time. Yeah. Just the travelling. I mean, this is
It depends on. I think it depends on where you go and how good you know the dive shop you're going to, right? And what they can really rent out. For example, if we go to the Philippines, we go to our friends at Tech Asia, for example. I know they have jet fins, and I dive jet fins, so I'm not going to do. Take my jet fins with me, but I ask if I can just use them rent them for a week. So this is something definitely an easy yes. Same with tanks. Yeah. If you dive rebreather tanks, traveling with tanks, it's just heavy, right? Yeah. Plus you need to take the valves off because they need to be checked if there's no pressure in them. So I think this is something you definitely should ask a dive shop. And if you go that level diving, you should go to a dive shop that can provide these things. But then if it comes to more personalized things like your dry suit, I would say I would not want to rent it because it needs to fit you, right? So depends on what it is, in my opinion.
Yeah, and what do you put in your checked baggage? What do you put in carry-on? What do you put in your carry-on, mate?
Too much weight, because I have a limited weight allowance in my check-in. Like every other diver I know, probably does the same thing. But also I put in the check-in, and you think about what am I allowed to put in my check-in, like batteries, for example, is one of the big things, like lithium batteries for DPVs or lights. Are you allowed to check them in up to a certain voltage, or what are you not allowed to check in? And some countries actually, like the Philippines, I think there was sometimes you couldn't even take regulators in your hand luggage, because I don't know why. Yeah,
you couldn't take any dive gear in your hand luggage.
Yeah, correct. Sometimes I was stopped basically. So when you travel, keep these things in mind and really ask also, your local dive shop what they recommend, because you could get in trouble if you suddenly are at the screening and somebody just pulls out your regulators that you cannot check that you can take them in hand luggage, but you already checked in. So then what are you going to do? Go back and are you overweight and pay more? So there's these things you learn the hard way.
Yeah, and it also comes down to how much diving you're going to do when you travel. I mean, are
True,
you going for specifically a dive trip, like you're doing a course? If you're doing a course, probably you're going to want to take more of your own personal gear because you want to be more comfortable. If you're just going to do 1 or 2 dives and it's a bit of a family holiday or a business trip or whatever, then maybe, really trim down on what you're carrying.
Take your wetsuit, your thermal protection, and your mask, and maybe that's it. Because I mean, things like regulators, I think you can rent usually.
Yeah, and I guess when I travel and when I put it into what do I put in the carry-on bag, what do I put in checked baggage.
Also some air refers to flights, right? I mean, air travel, right?
Yeah. So it's like basically like for me, putting in my carry-on, it's I want to be moving through the airport as easily as possible, particularly if I've got a joining transiting flight sort of thing. If I'm going to Mexico, for example, from here, go through the States, I don't want to be carrying too much stuff, and I don't, going through security and all that sort of stuff. So it goes in the checked baggage and gets checked through, and I don't have to carry it, and I walk through the airport with it, worry about it or anything like that. But then maybe personal valuable stuff, more fragile stuff, you maybe want to take that with you.
Especially, I think in Africa when they open your check-in luggage,
yes,
right?
Yeah,
things like this. Keep
keep
safety,
that in mind.
security,
Safety. Yeah, I mean it's not an easy question. I guess you just got to balance out between what you're allowed to carry, and then you have to sort of put it into carry-on or checked baggage as appropriate, based on what the airline will allow you to.
But if it weighs 30 kilos, your hand luggage, just smile when you put it up in the overhead compartments in your cabin, and so nobody knows how
pretend
heavy
it's
it really
featherweight.
Is. Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Or ask your pilot friends to.
Or ask some pilot friends to maybe help out a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, right. Well, for our episode today, that's about it.
That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
that's
do
about
a second,
it.
a part 2.
We're going to do a part 2, and that's going to start our second season 2 of the Deco Mix podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for those questions, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to our podcasts over the past now 7 episodes. Please put any comments in the down below, and we'll try to answer them
and
as we
keep
go
on
through.
sending questions for our next Q&A sessions.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Thank you very much.